Welcome to another triathlon podcast brought to you by Mona Apparel. We're excited to catch up even over this holiday season. I know a lot of other people are off for the New Year's, for Christmas, but we still want to dive into some of the triathlon fun and catch up and maybe give you a little something to listen to if you're doing that RAFA 500 or doing some long training over the holidays. But let's jump into it, get started, and catch up with the one and only Fede, who is over there in New Zealand. How are you doing? How's it been? How was the race? We haven't heard about it.
Yeah. Hey guys, so good to see you. Yeah, it was an amazing race, and I was just talking to Josh before we started to record, and I think this probably was the best 70.3 Worlds iteration that I've ever taken part of.
Yeah.
Just because the whole town got behind it. It was just an incredible venue. The weather cooperated incredibly well, and it was just amazing. I mean, I don't think there was a single inch on the run course where there wasn't a spectator just cheering us on. And it was, I mean, the course was great, and it was, worthy of 70.3 Worlds, and it was just incredible to see all the athletes having fun. It was easy to check in. It's a big enough town, though, but for athletes to, it's not like, when you race Kona that everybody's riding up and down in LE driving on the Queen K. It didn't feel like that over here. It was smooth. Accommodations were a bit expensive just because there's not a lot of hotels, but that
Like double the size. It sounds like it was crazy.
Crazy. That was just the dynamic of Worlds, and incredible race. The swim was, pristine, clear water. You could see the bottom, so no big animals to scare you. So that was awesome.
Not like Australia, everything's trying to get you all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I did a couple of trail runs, and just a peace of mind that no animal is trying to kill you makes the whole experience a lot better. So you don't have to worry about snakes or, the sun or, I don't know, anything. So yeah, it was fun. And everybody was just talking about how good it was. And I can confirm that it was an amazing venue, and kudos to Ironman New Zealand and for, being patient, because we know that this race was supposed to happen 4 years ago, and it's just incredible that they stick to it, and it didn't disappoint. And the weather delivered: sunny, no wind, just perfect race conditions. Yeah, really, really glad that it took place. And my race was, I was just happy to be there, healthy, running around. Of course, I wasn't super fit, but that was just, that's sometimes life.
Yeah.
But yeah, no excuses. I mean, I did the best that I could on the day with the fitness that I had, and I enjoyed it. Sometimes, it's all about, I mean, for me, it was like a bounce back race. Like Josh sent me a text after the race, and that it's just onwards from here, because I'm healthy and happy and ready to get back on the fitness level that I'm usually at. But yeah, it was incredible. Like, it's it's amazing how fast the body forgets how fit you were once, because on some of the climbs I was pushing and I was like, "Ooh, it's this feels like a VO2 type of session, and I shouldn't be feeling that." But yeah, no, it was fun, and I think my aerodynamics made my bike ride a lot faster than it was supposed to be, because I didn't push a lot of power whatsoever. And the run, I just enjoyed it. It was fun, giving high fives, and made a I was having fun, and I wanted to. There were a lot of volunteers on every aid station, and it was amazing because Ironman New Zealand had little kids on some of the aid stations, and I wanted to take at least something from the smallest kids. So because nobody was taking cups from them. So I was just taking the time, taking cups from them and giving them high fives. And there were a couple of friends of mine on the aid stations, and yeah, it felt like a home race for me. That being over to New Zealand and building good relationships, and yeah, it was awesome. And, found the love. I mean, not that I didn't had it, but I remembered why I do this. The community, togetherness, and taking part of something bigger than yourself. Everything happened. Yeah, I'm definitely eager to go back and execute and now actually race, not just take part. But yeah, super happy. It was very cool to see a lot of mono athletes. Philip had an amazing race. A lot of mono kits, custom kits. That was incredible. It's amazing how far we've gone with mono apparel. So yeah, it was very cool. At the expo, I think we sold out on day one, pretty much.
That is
That's
wicked.
crazy.
Yeah, I've just started my design for my Mana custom tri-suit next year, so I'm very excited. Yeah. But yeah, from all accounts, everyone has just been raving about New Zealand and even talks about we do rotating world championships with Kona, and that it was some of the best ever, I guess, experiences for a world championship, and that's saying something. So that's very, very cool to hear. If only New Zealand was a little bit closer, that would be awesome. But Kona's no easy feat to get to either. So it sounds like it was an incredible trip.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. And it would be awesome to have another. I mean, if they're going to rotate Kona, it would be amazing to have New Zealand as part of their rotation.
Fair enough.
Were you one of the later age groups too? Because obviously with the world championships, right, the age groups it's not self-seeding like it is on a normal Ironman race, whereas it's eight. So I think you were one of the late starts too. So did that impact your race at all? Because we don't get to hear that from the pro race recap, but for an age grouper starting later, there's a lot more traffic, right?
Yeah. I mean, the pros started at 7 a.m. and I started like an hour and 40 minutes after. So yeah, I started like 8:40 something or 8:30 something. Yeah. Hang on. Apologies. I need to silence the dog. Let me
Sounds just like mine. So
let me just put him down.
You're good.
Yeah. How about you, Josh? How's the training race in Houston?
It's picking back up. I think there's a good chance that Oceanside's going to happen now. So starting to put some sights on that, still in kind of the regular base build phase before we get a little bit more focused in the next week or two. So I'm in like base week 5 coming up this week now, but last week got almost 14 hours of training in. So pretty decent for me. And a lot of it was strength and rehab type work on the Achilles, and I realized I did my first outdoor run since Paris on my virtual marathon. So first time I've been outside and not on a treadmill in that long. So we actually ran a portion of the Boston Marathon route from downtown Boston out to the Boston College area and back, and part of my wife's training for the Boston Marathon. So I joined her on Saturday. I'm going to do that for my long runs, and you get a little bit of aid and support along the route. And they've got some aid stations out there for the charity groups and all the runners getting ready and training on the course. So it's a cool thing to be a part of. It was fun to go out. A little slippery. She actually took a tumble, but it gets a little icy on the sidewalks this time of year, and it's all melting. So it was like false security at the same time too, where it looked like it was fine, but it's a little slippery. So just things to be careful about. But yeah, no, it's been a good training week, and a lot of travel in the car and stuff like that. And was still able to fit it all in. I did my swim yesterday before we left New Hampshire. We went up for a night to see a band, and in the hotel pool, I was like, it looked pretty good online. And when I got there, I measured it out, and it was like 15 yards. Yeah. The 9 laps for 1,600 yards of work. Cool. It was a lot of work. So I actually said to my wife, I was like, I got a lot of core work in just from all the turns and pushing off the wall and all the crunches. So it was more of a core workout than anything else, but I got the job done. So it felt good, and had a nice long ride last night with exactly what Jenna had posted about. I had 10 efforts at 65 cadence, a minute long each after 66 minutes of endurance, and then right into an accelerating type sprint out of a 65 cadence. So finishing at 100 plus, but the predominant amount of the minute was in the 65 range.
That's awesome.
And much higher watts too. So it was a good workout.
Yeah, that low cadence work, that muscular endurance, this is absolutely time for it. Just building some very specific bike strength is a very good thing.
Gonna need it for Oceanside if I'm gonna want to do better than I did last year. I was like, I was so looking forward to Oregon being that next bike ride and having a flat ride for a change. But I think doing Oceanside again will be a great warm up to get me ready and get me fit for Oregon and come out of Oceanside and get back into another quick build before. I got plenty of time between April and end of July, so it should be
I'm sure you'll find a few
perfect
more
timing.
on there.
Yeah, couple local races here and there. So my first sprint is in between there too, but that's a weekend of training anyways, right? It's actually almost not enough training. There is a new Olympic that I might do. I have to figure out the date on that one too, but it's the same season opener type race that I've done before, but it's also the Massachusetts State Championship as part of USAT. So I haven't been able to do it because it's been the same week as Western Massachusetts 70.3. So I'm not doing that one this year. So I can jump into this Olympic and looked at some of the times from last year. And there's a really good shot that my Olympic performance in Boston last year translates to this course. It's even flatter. Could be a good day. So
awesome.
Get myself to Milwaukee, it sounds like.
Yeah. Should be a few other triathletes around there. Be good.
Yeah. So how about you, Jenna? You had a traveling week of holiday and over to the coast?
Bit of traveling around here. Had a fun 8.5-hour drive over to Kelowna, which most people in triathlon will know of Penticton. It's just about a hour away from where I was over in West Kelowna there. I always love, I've got a bunch of family there, so usually I'll go do some training camps in Penticton and just kind of stay with my family over in West Kelowna. It's all kind of the same terrain, but it was a little too chilly to do some open water swimming and riding, but actually got the chance to run outside a bit, which was awesome. The fun part with Kelowna is it's not flat, so one day I decided I wanted to run down to the waterfront from my sister's house, and of course she's up on this big, hill, massive hill kind of thing. So ran down to the waterfront. It was about, I think 8 or 9K down there kind of thing. Looked at what the descent was. It was 1,000 feet. I'd gone down. I'm like, yeah, now I have to go back up that ways. But funny enough, the harder part was the descents. Because I've been running hills beforehand. Just my quads were threatening to cramp the entire time because it was on day 3. I've been running up and down these hills and stuff. And I'm almost looking forward to just grinding up because at least that's not painful. Just
yeah.
But
I know what you mean.
We got some running strength work in there. They're not hills that I'm running on around here like that. Although on the treadmill, I've been doing a lot of similar hill work. This time, to hit peak suffering on a treadmill with my long ride had it was 1 mile intervals of 5%, then 10%, and then 15%, and 10%. I never used 20% on my treadmill before.
I didn't know they made them.
I don't think my treadmill goes over 12%.
My goodness. I was barely jogging. All I could feel was my quads the whole time. It's barely jogging, but it will build some resiliency, we'll say. Hills were always my weakness in the past, and no better way to get over a weakness with hills than just keep grinding away on a lot of hills. Although I've learned I need to stick a fan on my treadmill because I'm doing it all overdressed and just kind of remove airs if the heart rate gets too crazy high, because it does at times. But I've had to put a fan on my treadmill motor and belt, or else it starts flipping. I just get this scene of death and it shuts down randomly. Okay. So I don't get the fan, but my treadmill does now.
Before you go through another treadmill, because didn't you have that problem last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although the Wahoo treadmill will be available in Canada in 2025. So if I kill this just in time for that, then I need to upgrade. I mean,
there you go.
Now we really have to grow the podcast. We got to get Jenna's treadmill sponsored.
Yeah. Treadmills for everybody.
Fund the pain cave. No, but it's been good. Just a lot of really grindy work. Like I said, this time of year, it's all about that kind of strength and endurance, and the speed will come along afterwards. But yeah.
And your first race is Taiwan, right? You're
Taiwan, yeah.
Everybody's going to Taiwan.
Man, it's crazy to think the last time I finished an Ironman was 22. Yeah, 2022. So
yes, yeah.
looking forward to jumping back in. It'll be good. But yeah, it's been fun just kind of going around in the pain cave here. But this week we don't have any pros to talk about. I was taking a look to see if we had some updates on the PTO World Rankings, just to see if we can make some speculations on who will get the T100 contracts for next year. And it doesn't look like they've updated past December 9th. So we still don't know what that's going to look like for the new year. We've heard about those top 10 contracts, who was offered them, who turned it down, who is going to be going into the 2025 season. But really curious to find out once they will update those world rankings and not only see who's going to be kind of next on the list in there, but also what the points look like for something like Ironman 70.3 World Championships. Because I was thinking about it the other day, when you have athletes like Kat or Magnus just not doing the series, how hard is it going to be for them to get back into it if they want to do it in, say, 2026? What do you guys think? What are we going to see in the rankings? Will that count for much?
It'll be interesting to see what 70.3 World's final result does to the year. But I still don't see the two of them working together. It's still going to be highly weighted on the T100. Kat's going to have an open invite to come back. Like they still openly talk about how much they loved the T100 series, and every stop except for Miami. It's pretty much everything you hear about the T100 except for Miami, out of anyone's mouth. But that's what happens when you have a race that needs to fit into a certain geographic area and time of the year and things like that. It's not hard to find places that aren't Miami or Daytona and things like that. So that's what they were stuck with this year. I don't think you're going to see much of a difference in points for Ironman races than you saw this year. They're adding more T100s. I just don't see it. I don't think that T100 really cares about the athletes who don't jump into their series, but at the same time, they're going to take care of their athletes, and we know that, and that is for sure. They're going to keep an eye on what the Cats and the Magnuses and obviously the people who have been part of their series history, but their focus is going to be on their current contracted athletes, their hot shots, and the Olympic athletes that they want to attract.
The athletes that showed up and actually raced it like a race, not just a training day.
Yeah. And we already saw them make an adjustment, right? It sounds like in New Zealand, they made an adjustment, or right before that those contracts got changed because they were about to lose even more people. And then we talked about we didn't expect Paula Findlay to sign, but she signed. So obviously whatever they did last minute to change the number of races or to equal the value that they decreased the contracts to made the difference in terms of getting more people to sign or get 80% of their top 10 to sign.
Yeah, that was right down to the wire that they changed things up, because what we heard going in, the rumors was that there's going to be more races that they have to do, that, it's going to be around the same money, but they're going to have to do more races, which obviously a lot of the athletes are like, well, no, you're going to have to do more work for less money. You've already set this precedence. But it sounds like it really was down to the wire that they weren't going to get the athletes they want. So they backed off on that. Well, there might be less racing. There are, from the rumors I'm hearing, more races that they absolutely have to do. So something like the season opener, and then obviously the grand final. Again, this is all rumors and stuff, so who knows what is true in there, but I seem to be hearing that from a few different sources at this point. So at least we'll have a few key races where all of the names should be out there and at least kick it off with a bang.
Yeah, totally.
No, excited to see that. And still, we don't have all of the events for the T100 next year. We've got a few of the locations in there. I don't think they've even announced Vancouver yet, which kind of just here for, and because the city council and board approved it essentially. But yeah, I'm curious to see when they'll actually come out with the full calendar, and if the athletes know the full calendar yet, because I know that was a big problem last year, right down to the wire, that they didn't really have a firm grasp on what it would look like or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, this year probably plays a bit more into favor of the athletes, because that it's okay having a little bit more uncertainty, just because it's not an Olympic year, and it probably gives them a bit more flexibility in choosing their schedule when it comes to the short course athletes. So I think this next year we're going to see more athletes coming to the start line, and probably it's not as a big of a deal to not know the full calendar right now than it was probably last year. So yeah, it would be awesome. If we see Vancouver, it would be awesome to
That
see
would
that
be.
race, maybe instead of Miami, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think Miami's off for next year. So what I've seen so far, we've got Singapore on the 12th and 13th of April, French Riviera on May 16th to 18th. San Francisco will be back. That one was epic. May 31st to June 1st. The London event was August 2nd to 3rd. Ibiza, September 27th to 28th. Lake Las Vegas from October 25th to 20th. And then Dubai sometime in November. And then to be announced for a few others in there. So definitely some of the best, like there were some really good races there. So I'm glad to see they ditched Miami. And it sounds like Miami was a case of they had a third party kind of running all the broadcast and the event in there. They took the actual like locations broadcast team to do it. So once we saw them get control of the actual broadcast and what they were putting out there, it definitely got better and better throughout the year for sure.
It'll be interesting to see what the start list looks like in Singapore, because anyone who's doing Texas isn't going to Singapore. And you've got a lot of people that are going to have to do Texas to qualify for Worlds. And then you've got it's not too far off. It's only, 10 days off of Oceanside too, which is a lot of those people just, hey, it's easy for Americans to go do Oceanside and Texas. But then you throw Singapore in, now you got one race. So that's a tough one. That's certainly going to be one. I don't think you're going to see many Americans at T100.
See, what I'm hearing though is that the first race is going to be one of the mandatory ones. Really? So that's what, again, rumors at this point, but I'm hearing the rumors that the first one will be one of the mandatory ones that they have to show up to.
So what Ironman is Martin Real going to do?
Exactly.
Good question. Yeah. That one, I don't think he'd go to Texas if he was going to do an Ironman anyways, because you don't want to go to one where you have all the heavy hitters. That'll be
true. That's why, but it's got to, and it doesn't have to be a pro series for him either, right?
No.
He just has to get in the podium or find one with slots.
Like
South Africa.
Yeah, South Africa I could see. And that's it. When you talk about there was some fun chatter about the Ironman series too, is kind of picking and choosing your races. You can definitely be a lot more successful at it than going to the big hitout ones like Oceanside. It's always going to have a massive field of all the best people to kick off the season. That is the season opener that everyone's going out to. Texas, again, you have the most pros kind of in North America. So that'll be a massive one for points. So you can definitely find ways to kind of cherry pick some races that will still get you the full points rankings, but may have as much competition like South Africa, like you mentioned, Josh. And there's a couple over like in the UK that one, can't remember which race now, but yeah, there are a few that you're not going to have the big names going to. So may as well go there, especially with every second counts. If you don't have like the 10 best in the world racing, you definitely have a chance at a few more points.
Yeah. And Oceanside's always just kind of been a checkpoint for a lot of people. Show up, see where your fitness is at. It was obviously a false sense of fitness for Lionel Lushter, ignoring his injury shortly thereafter, like the day after. And then going in and having a good performance in Trumbull, that didn't help him. But I think Oceanside's always going to be that race, and it's always going to be overcrowded. And you're going to have the person finishing 12th still in play for the Ironman Pro Series later on down the road.
Yeah.
They weren't ready in April, and they were playing their season for the long haul. As we said, Gregory Barnaby didn't even race Texas. I mean, he still wasn't even on the board until after May.
Which is crazy. Man, I just watched Lionel's latest video on the trainer today, and just, you so want him to win. He sounded so defeated on this one, but it was interesting just to see how he thinks one of his biggest kind of fatal flaws, and something that is something I try to drive home to athletes I coach as well, is with that coaching relationship, you need to communicate with your coach. There's so much that we can see from the data, how you're feeling, where your head's at, how your body is. Like, those are absolutely data points that make a massive difference if you're communicating it with your coach. So that's something, if you're an age grouper, talk to your coach. It's definitely a good thing. They're not there to just hand out workouts kind of thing. They want you to be successful and work with you and see how you're feeling, adjusting it. So communication. Good.
He said it didn't matter who was coaching him. They didn't have a chance the way he communicated. And it was, they threw Jan in there too, which was, not only did they throw Jan in there, there's Jan in the aero tunnel. And it was like, oh, wait, he wasn't in any of the videos when you guys showed this stuff originally.
He was in the last video.
Was he?
He was the one holding up the airstream thing so I could see the aerodynamics in there. There was like he shot of Jan in there. It's like, hey, okay.
Yeah. No, I just watched the one he dropped a few hours ago while I was on my treadmill run this afternoon too. So I've been doing a lot of YouTube catching up. That'll be probably the social media post of the week, is some things for people to watch.
Yeah.
Always a good thing.
Binge watch.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he was just saying how he didn't really have the mindset he could win, and how even with Jan, he didn't communicate it in there, and he's like, if I'm going to fail, I'm going to do it my way. So get out.
Or if I'm injured the day after a race, doing threshold sessions probably wasn't the wise way to go.
I mean, playing devil's advocate here, I think sometimes, and I'm speaking for myself, sometimes we as athletes don't reach out to our coaches just to have that safe shoulda, coulda, woulda in the back, that's not going all in, because then if you listen to your coach and you tell him or her how you're feeling, and you don't leave any stone unturned, and you go out and you execute and you fail, then that's probably a harder pill to swallow than saying, well, yeah, I failed, but I didn't quite listen to my coach. It's like a safe, I think for some athletes, it's like a safe place to fall to. Then some other athletes who go, yeah, I tried, I failed, I did everything I could, but I just couldn't compete with all the other guys who are just better than me on the day. And I think it takes humility to actually go all in a race field, because it takes courage to go all in, to be honest.
Absolutely. That's the biggest thing. If you don't have expectations of yourself to do well, and you don't push it and go all in, then pretty disappointing at the end of the day, right? To actually go for it and put yourself on the line and say, I'm at this, is a very vulnerable spot to be there too. But is there something you tell to any like athletes who are coached? Never be afraid to tell your coach you couldn't finish the workout. They're not going to be disappointed in you for not finishing a workout because your body just couldn't do it on the day, your head wasn't there. It's different if you've gone the whole week and haven't finished a single workout just because not to, right? But times coaches, what we're doing is we're overloading you a bit to get those fitness gains. You have to go a little past that comfort zone to get fitter, but also let your body recover in between. And sometimes some of those workouts are meant to be on that limit of what you can or can't do. And it's okay to fail. And it's not even failing, to not be able to complete it at times. That gives you a check in to see where you are, how your body's feeling. If you come back and say, oh, like I just couldn't do it, body couldn't do it on the day, and tell your coach that, they're not going to come back and say, oh, you're crap, I'm disappointed in you. They'll be like, okay, here's where you're at. Here's how we can adapt to get you to the point where you can do this workout. The worst thing you can do is just absolutely break yourself to finish it and be broken down for the next week afterwards. So never think that your coach is going to come back with your shit, I'm disappointed. And if they do, get a new coach.
Yeah, that's the old training mentality. Yeah. Just like keep going until you break. I'm like, well, no, I got to train just as hard tomorrow or just as smart tomorrow. And that's the new training mentality. And all of this reminds me of what we'll talk about later. Is this is a perfect time to set your personal goals for next year and set them correctly, set them for you. Like, I mean, Fede mentioned like chasing other guys and other dudes, like that's great and all if we're at that level, but not every one of our listeners is at that level. I'm not at that level in most of the races I'm in, but if I show up in PR, and we've talked a lot about the fact that I'm newer to the sport and still at that PR phase, I think anyone can go out and join this sport or enjoy the sport and set goals that they can reach. And as you start to reach them, then you can raise your own bar further and further each year. And now's a good time to assess what you want for this year. Let your coach know that, have that conversation so that you are setting yourself up for success, but challenging yourself at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. That is such a great way to put it in there too. Actually, let's kind of jump into that. I know we'll still go through the social media and what the F and stuff, but speaking of coming into the new year, it's when you get this, it'll be tomorrow will be the new year.
Yes.
So 2025 is going to be lots of new goals and challenges, I'm sure, for everyone. And sometimes triathlon comes in waves. I know for myself, some years are more triathlon focused where I'm going all in and really chasing big goals, and other years are just kind of doing it for fun and balancing the rest of life, family and work and all of that fun stuff, because none of us are pro triathletes with 40 hours a week to just eat, train, sleep, and do nothing else. As much fun as that would be. But let's kind of hear tell me what races you're doing this year and kind of what your goals are for them. Let's start with Josh, since you brought it up here.
Transitioned without even knowing it was transitioning.
There we go.
T1's already done. I wish, right? That means the swim's done. And so my first race, most likely, normally I'll do that spring half marathon to kind of see where I'm at. I don't know if that'll happen or not. This year there is one local because I can't get to Virginia to do the one I normally do to try and set that. So that's kind of been an early season PR. We might find one local depending on how my legs are doing in the Achilles. So right now, it's looking like it'll be Oceanside the first weekend, Saturday of April, with the Mana team and a lot of activations around that. So stay tuned for that announcement, which would be really cool, and start to do some community stuff while we're out there. It's where Mana's from, and it's just kind of natural for us to do something else around that with the podcast too. So I think from there, I'll do some local. So there's that Olympic triathlon that I was talking about. That's going to be in June, like the first or second weekend of June. I'll do that and try and qualify for USAT for the first time. So that'll be a big goal for me. And at the same time, get on my first individual podium at that race is a new goal. Just kind of, I'm at that phase now where it's like, wow, I actually looked at last year's results to see what the guys did. And two of the dudes are aging out. And both of their times were similar or around what I did in Boston. So, and I looked, nobody's really aging in, and it's the same weekend as Ironman 70.3 Western Mass. So the big guns and all that typically will be at that race, just because we all know if you can drive to an Ironman 70.3 or an Ironman branded race,
Yeah,
you almost have to jump into it. I've done it 2 years in a row now. It doesn't fit into my schedule because my A race in triathlon 70.3 is Oregon. So that's my big one. That'll be my sub 5 attempt, unless we do it at Oceanside unexpectedly. So that'd be a heck of a jump on that course for me.
Yeah.
Could like happen. A 34-minute PR on that course. But you never know. A lot has happened since with the run and I think
see a
with
lot of
the
all year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why I wanted to preface that, right? I mean, because I have room to make some more personal growth and goals, and last season set up this season, and all of the running on the back half is going to allow us to focus on the swim and the bike in the off season, which we've been doing, and now can build that run, but the aerobic base is still there. Not happy with where my heart rate is on runs and things like that right now, but I'm very confident that that's all going to come back, and not worried about it one bit. And from there, from Oregon, it will probably do the Boston Triathlon again, especially if Super Tri's here, but it'll all be right into marathon season again. And I've qualified for Chicago, and a few weeks later in New York, I am running as well. So back-to-back marathons within 3 weeks, but both of them actually with real legit bibs this time. And I'll try and qualify for Boston. I'm at Chicago again. There's a chance I could jump into Boston Marathon this year, and we'll find out in September if my time from Chicago this year got me into Boston in 2026 too. So yeah, pretty big year. Sub 5, sub 3 at Chicago would be a very big outside goal. It's a big jump. It's crazy to think about running that pace per mile, per kilometer, but it's attainable. I think it's a big outside goal. Sub 5 at Oregon, I think that, like, I would feel pretty bad if I didn't get that. I think my A goal is probably going to be better than that. The B goal would be sub 5 at Oregon, and then Chicago would be sub 3 as a very high A goal, and then sub 310 as a B goal, something like that. So still on the way up. We'll see. Just got to stay healthy and keep doing all this strength training.
That's the big thing that will help keep you injury free there and make sure everything's moving well so that you can go after all of those. Now, would you say if you had to pick 2 A races for the year, which one would they be?
The A races would be Oregon, and I would say the Chicago Marathon again.
Awesome. Love it. How about you, Fede? How's your race calendar shaping up for the next year?
Well, still planning it. Still planning it. I want to be at Oceanside. If not racing, just be there to be part of the support, to support the team and to be there and create some content for the podcast and just cheer the whole community because we have a lot of athletes racing Oceanside. Yeah, just a lot. In terms of me racing, I really want to do 70 just because it's the last year that race is going to be happening, and I just love that race.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I love the community. I love St. George, and it's an incredible venue. Like the first time I did St. George, I went with my dad, and we drove from Vegas to St. George. And if I do it this year, I want to do the same. Go with him and do the trip, other sun trip. After that, doing 70.3 Hawaii, just because there's no Kona for us boys. So I need to get my Kona fixed. Like I'm like a junkie that I need to some
Yeah.
Kona every year.
Gonna take.
Yeah, get a taste for the island. That's in late May, early June. Then after that, well, actually, in between those races, considering in doing a 50K run in Colorado. So yeah, that would be probably my first soaking in the toes in the ultra world. Would be interesting, and I think, I mean, it's not a super technical course or anything, but 50Ks. I don't want to say they're easy, but when it comes to ultras, that's probably the
Into
the gateway drug, I would say.
Try and chase down Eric Lagerstrom, I see.
Yeah. And doing that, and I want to do either Chicago or New York with Josh. I entered the lottery to Chicago. I didn't get selected, but there's many ways that I could still get an entry. So looking at those, also New York, see what fits best in the calendar. And then I want to do another trip to New Zealand to build towards our Challenge Wanaka and Ironman New Zealand 2026. So yeah, that's probably going to be my year. Probably sprinkle a few Olympic distance there to get that speed back on. Yeah, just because, there's no Kona and 70.3 Worlds in Spain doesn't really, hit the spark for me.
Yeah.
So, just probably a build year after this year that was, up and down and hiccups, and didn't really feel like it started, well, after my race in New Zealand in January, it was up and down. But just it's how it is. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm just grateful that this has been the first year that it was like that. So, taking things into perspective and building and doing races that I find interesting and not having, you're probably gonna understand this, not having the pressure of peaking at a certain month or not doing a certain race because it doesn't fit the calendar for either 70.3 Worlds or Kona or like a Boston Marathon. So I can just do whatever I want and peak whenever I want, really. But probably my if I was gonna pick for a race, it probably was gonna be Hawaii 70.3 and Chicago or New York.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah, I need to get down and do that Hawaii 70.3 one time. That looks good. You have the suffering in Kona, just get a taste of.
It's an amazing race. I mean, we should probably get down there and do an ATP race. It's an amazing venue. Probably give Josh a taste of the island. Maybe he's like, that's his gateway drug into, doing pulls and trying to qualify for Kona. That's probably a good idea.
Get sucked into it.
Yeah.
But my wife's never been to Hawaii, so it's
You'd come down there. Just come down this year and spectate and geek out on triathlon. That's exciting. No, good to hear it.
How about you, Jenna? You got a full year with an Ironman to kick it off.
Yeah, a couple Ironmans this year, which I'm looking forward to. I have very different goals for both of them. So races so far this year are doing Ironman Taiwan in April. Yeah, April. Coming very, very, very quickly. So definitely looking forward to that one. And then doing hopefully doing Kona, hopefully qualifying for Kona. That'll be the big one. So have to go well in Taiwan to make that happen. But
She
it's
says
fun.
hopefully. Like,
So how many slots in your age group that you know of without even getting into the whole slot down?
it doesn't matter. Jenna doesn't look at that. She
Looked at I'm at the top of the podium, so it doesn't matter.
she has a bad race, 75 flats, and then ends up winning her age group. So it doesn't really affect
Because she's been running at 20% for the last 2 months.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Okay, so been doing this long enough, have a good idea where I'm at and stuff, right? And Ironmans have typically gone well, except for Kona. So the goal for Taiwan is to win my age group, and hopefully be on the podium overall, which would be very cool to do. It was so fun when I did Chattanooga a few years ago. They didn't have any pros, so you got like the lead bikers with you. It was so fun having someone like riding along, kind of telling you where you're at and all that fun stuff. But yeah, so that would be the goal. And if anyone does want to come do Ironman Taiwan, we are going to have a bunch of the Mana crew out there. We even have a discount code for it and stuff. So give me a shout if you do want to come out and do Ironman Taiwan with us. It's always fun to just travel somewhere new and explore somewhere new, especially when you have a team around you and other people are kind of figuring it all out along the way too. I haven't looked at the course too much, but it seems fairly rolling. Fingers crossed it's a wetsuit swim. Should be good. So yeah, for that one, I definitely have placing goals. So times and all of that, I really don't know the course too well. I've never done it and all that. No, don't know what the temperatures could be. So basically going to stick to my heart rate and power numbers and go out there and see what I can do. For Kona, I have a very different goal because Kona has never gone well for me. So their time will be the charm. Fingers crossed. But with Kona, I just want to have a solid day. Like that's really all I want out of it. No placing goals, no time goals, no pressure that way. I just want to go into the race feeling fired up and ready to, be aggressive, put it out there and see what happens and have a solid day all around. Because Kona's just at Achilles' heel so far.
I mean,
so, yeah.
We've heard from numerous pros that Kona is very few athletes have an amazing time on their first go or second or third. It's a race that takes time to master, and I think that's part of the charm of Kona and the magic of the island, that it doesn't come easy to everyone. And I'm sure that for you, third time's the charm, and you're probably fingers crossed you'll do great in Taiwan, and then hopefully that translates well to Kona. They're both hot races, so you have that going on for you.
Yeah, definitely. Gonna be ready for the heat. That'll be the big one.
Yeah.
Just kind of getting ready for that. So yeah, looking forward to it. Definitely want to, just have a solid day. And then through that, I'll see what I do for 70 points and stuff. Gonna do a couple duathlons, the local duathlons, just because it's just such a fun community. People, familiar faces that you get to catch up with after we exit the deep freeze of the Canadian winter. Everything else just kind of training around those two races, then go have a hit out and see what happens. So I've realized I thought that the Taiwan course wasn't up because when you look at it on the Ironman page, it doesn't come up. It just sends you back to the front page. But if I Google Ironman Taiwan course, it pops up there. So now I actually have to look at the course and
look at it.
So some people, like some of the athletes I coach, want to know the course like intimately and stuff. And that is a very good idea to know where you're going, have an idea of it. And others are just like, I'm just going to train to get fit enough to do an Ironman and whatever happens in there happens.
Yeah.
I think for like 80% of courses, that's totally fine. But you do have the outliers like a St. George where it's good to know what you're in store for the course.
Absolutely.
Because you can get, it's very, very hilly.
It's because there's been courses where I've done a lot of recon and even lived close to and know well enough, but it's still on race day. It's like, there's that right turn. You get in the moment. It's wait, you forget all of that studying your brain's done because you're so focused at being at the right wattage and being at the right heart rate and what's in front of you. And you're like, oh, this is where we are. Now, there's a good chance you're going to have 80% of it know exactly where you're supposed to be and what side of the road in the run and things like that. But there's always going to be times where any recon you did is going to go out the window. So if you can't do it, don't worry about it. If the course is on Full Gas, you can always get on Full Gas. I've really enjoyed Training Peak Virtual, by the way. Still enjoying it. It did crash on me once, but I hope more and more people keep jumping on there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, doing Oregon too. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I thought. You were doing Oregon, so we can both float like a potato chip down that.
there we go. Go fast.
Awesome.
We'll
Yeah.
see. Might do Calgary the weekend after, just because it's in my backyard. See what happens there. Yeah, looking forward to a fast swim there. I like the fast swims. That's what made Chattanooga so fun, just being near the front from the start. To have like the whole day.
I think that would be either California or Chattanooga will be potentially on the horizon for 2026 for me. We'll see.
Oh, and I have a spot at Ironman California. If all goes to hell and I don't get the spot in Ironman Taiwan, then I'll go do Ironman California instead of. Would much rather go back to Kona and hang out with the team and just geek out on the whole triathlon atmosphere there.
Yeah, and I don't think California would be a Nice qualifying race. It would be a Kona because it sounds like the men are going to Kona again too. So
that's why I signed up for California, because I wanted to go race Nice for the World Championships.
Yeah.
We do not think that's going to be happening. So.
Does not sound like it.
They've been sending out emails, sending out questions, like polling
Surveys.
people to see what they want to do.
Did you get the poll? I did, because I did.
I didn't.
This is very interesting, because I was just talking to a couple of my friends in New Zealand about this, and it seems that Ironman has been very selective to who they send the questionnaires to. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think it's a case of, we're just gonna play. We're gonna say we send surveys, but we know what the answer is gonna be.
100%. You can tell just registration numbers from last years for Nice and Kona. There's no question what people want. It's just what did they ask? Was it if they do it on different music? What was it?
One of the questions was, how strong do you feel about splitting the Ironman World Champs? And it was like, I don't care to make Kona great again, basically. And
Rally.
yeah. And it was those type of questions, Would you rather race an Ironman if you wanted to qualify for Kona or Nice? And it was everything was leading towards yes, we're gonna push.
Even the questions were leading.
Like, duh.
Yeah.
So that. Now, did they ask any questions on like the timing? If you'd want it to be like
1 day or 2 days,
like week, or on 2 separate weekends, or
it was like, are you okay in having 2 days if it's in Kona, or 1 day for the, and you could say yes, I don't care if it's 2 days as long as it's in Kona, but
see, I'm surprised they didn't go out to more women if they're asking that question there too, because it's like the women are probably more affected by that, because typically we'd have 500 Kona spots compared to 2,500 the way it is right now. But I wonder when they'll make that announcement out there, because you got to think, like, people who have registered for Nice, it's like people make travel plans, and there's a whole lot of people already qualified for Nice if they're going to make any changes, and we're only going to start to rack up the women who are qualified for Kona. That's for a race, thinking you're going for a Kona spot and have like 40, 50 spots, and there's only again.
Yeah. I mean, I reckon if they don't make the decision before Texas, then it's the men are gonna go racing Nice. But then, like in the middle of the year, they're gonna come out with, guess what? By 2026, where everyone's going to Kona. I think that's what they're doing.
If they're making the switch, they got to do it like this coming month. Like it's got to be done and announced in January would be my guess.
They're going to start to wrap those up some more. Yeah, the longer they wait, the more people they piss off with the change. Both the women trying to qualify for Kona and the men who are qualified for Nice and have made travel accommodations.
Then that would mean that they would need to like redo the slots, because like in Ironman Cozumel, they gave out like 1,758 slots for Kona. It seems like if you just finish the race, you get a slot.
Except for Martin.
Yeah.
Except for Martin, yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm curious. I wouldn't be surprised to see they have like the male pros back in Kona this year and then kind of move forward with to consolidate it in the future. But even like,
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was brought it up that they haven't allocated all of the women's spots either. There's only something like 1,500 slots allocated for women in Kona this year, which is obviously less.
That's
than
interesting.
100. Yeah.
Man, if you're an age group male racing in Nice without the pros there, like just the whole mystique of the week,
Oh,
right? Like,
totally not. Especially when
you're not in Kona, now you're in Nice, which is awesome. And the course
Yeah.
is phenomenal. Like, it sounds like everyone wants to like one and done the course too. It sounds like that was one of the questions on the thing too. But it's just like without the pro aspect to that race day, to me, that's like Oceanside. Like that draw for Oceanside is that piece of it and the mystique of the course and the pros being there. So to not have the pros, I get it because they want to take care of the pros and get them back to Kona as soon as possible. And it's impossible to do it on the same weekend that they've got. There's not enough dock space.
Well, and especially when you can race that race for half the price a few months earlier. It's not the World Championships.
Yeah.
There you go.
Just, yeah. No, be curious to see. Well, let's roll on through here. Definitely lots of speculations from the T100 to the PT or to the Ironman series to where Kona or Nice, what's happening with all of it. But let's jump into some of the goings on with the social media world. Josh, what do you got for social media posts this week?
Well, there's been a lot of awesome stats and dollar figures and everything with Try Rating and Try 247 and all the different media outlets have been putting out some really awesome recaps of how much money people made and what watts people did. And if there was one recently too, where it was like, this is the Ironman Pro Series point system based on the swim times alone across the entire Pro Series. And then the bike times and then the run times. And I mean, kudos to Kat. She was up to the top for her, right across. But you can start to see some people like, that'd be interesting to see if you add these up, how different it would have been. So that was kind of cool. But the one that I did want to point out, just because it's been helpful for me in my training and doing some longer aerobic sessions that aren't always as dramatic as some of the others. I have a little more time to focus on what I'm looking at. And Try 247 had a story. I don't know if it's an actual static post or not, but they put out quick links and stories that have been some of the best triathlon movie documentaries that are currently out there. And it starts with Kat's story, the crush that the T100 put out a couple of years ago after the accident and her way back and how she recovered from that. Another one I had just watched, which I was going to bring up on the podcast too, which is absolutely crazy. If you have a hard training session and a longer training session that you feel like you might give up on and not have that expectations that Jen thought, it's okay. But if you want to push through, watch Project Iceman, because it's unreal what this kid puts himself through to be the first person to ever do an Ironman on Antarctica, including the swim in the water with the icebergs. He actually, the best leg actually ended up being the swim. You'll see. But Project Iceman, crazy. This little, I think is a Norwegian kid.
Is it on YouTube or Netflix?
Yeah, YouTube.
No,
I'll check that out.
Yeah.
So random. I was chatting with Maka today, and he's going to Antarctica to check it out just to go see it. I'm like, it'd be such a cool.
Everybody's doing Antarctica now.
I don't know, but I started getting, like a suggestion page to follow on Instagram about the 7 marathons on 7 continents.
Yeah.
That's my fault. Sorry about that.
On 7 days. And I was like, ooh, Antarctica.
So bad. Yeah.
And then that's awesome because they fly you like, I think it's a private jet for the people racing, and
that's the majority of the cost.
Yeah, it's the majority of the. I mean, it's not cheap. I think it's $50,000.
It was just shy of $60 for the Great World Race. So I think there's like 2 producers. There's the World Marathon 7 races, that one, and then there's the Great World Race. So the 2 different organizations that I know of that do it. But yeah, it's crazy. It's
started looking into like 50,000. Like $1 billion Canadian.
Imagine how much it is in Mexican pesos. So it's the entire GDP of the country, basically.
The band I just went and saw the other night, one of the guys in the band, he was one of the ones who finished the one that just happened in Miami that I was down there for the finish at. And Antarctica's got all these marathons. People like keep going to Antarctica and breaking the marathon record on Antarctica, and like
that's crazy.
But you never know when you're going to get there either. Like you can have it all planned, but you get to South Africa or Chile or wherever the expedition leaves from, and you've got a window that you might be able to get there, but that window might not ever open for the plane to physically fly there either.
Imagine that. Yeah.
Insane. I'll definitely have to check that out. That sounds pretty epic.
Yeah, so Try247's got a whole list on their website of the best triathlon movies and documentaries. I was actually really happy to see a bunch of my friends from Athletic Brewing's team, Inches to Miles, that documentary that they put together on Lake Placid is there. And then The Man with the Halo, 100 meters, We Are Triathletes, and Under Paris, which I think everyone can now watch now that the Olympics are over.
No, they won't be attacked.
Yeah. But I've now watched. I watched Cats again, which I had already watched. But I watched that on the treadmill today, along with Lionel's. That just came out a few hours ago too. His recap of the season. A lot of the season recaps are out there. I watched the other one to look into is Sam Laidlow's recap of Kona.
Yeah,
and it kind of goes to Kona and then goes back to the build to Kona and his time in Kona leading up to it and how he felt. And man, he was dialed in and ready to go. I didn't know this, and I don't think they covered it in the race. He missed all 5 bottles at the first aid station on the bike before he got the hobby. Mm. So then he just started taking the electrolytes he had on the bike, and he probably oversalted. That led to the carbs not absorbing on the run, and that's what killed him. He felt great the first 10K of that run, like we all kind of saw, and like pumping his fist coming out of P2, and his body just stopped absorbing the carbs he was trying to take. And
lack of liquid.
He couldn't even piss on the bike. He couldn't even piss in that porta potty we all saw him go in. He was just totally messed up. But he said, I went for it. I'd rather not come out of that and be like, if I rode in that pack, I knew I wasn't going to win. I wasn't here for second place either. So he did what he had to do. So kudos to him. It's a really cool documentary. As we know, his YouTube's pretty phenomenal in terms of their production level. So another one to check out.
Well, I haven't seen any of those, so I know what I'll be watching.
You got plenty of work.
Yeah.
Here.
Watching.
Well, move along to What the F of the Week. And I was going to say What the F, it's almost 2025. But as a reminder of one of these posts that actually Pro Tri News did, where they posted out some of the power outputs of the top pro triathletes at the 70.3 World Championships. And some of them were willing to share. Some of them gave little hints at what their FTP was. What the F is, why can't you just tell us what your power is?
I mean,
especially there's so many factors these days between aerodynamics and weight and everything. Everyone's
exactly.
Significant. Like even the numbers we see for the top bike splits are anywhere from 280 with Henry Skuman to 365 with Rico Bogan to Hayden Wild just has a Kiwi. I like to share it in there. It's like, just give us an idea of what it is.
I would say Taylor Knibb's the only one that gets a pass in my world because she is so far ahead of the rest of the pack. The rest of them, just throw your watts out there and like, all right, see where else you...
Like Paula Finley's 2-8.
I think that was Kyle's doing. He like literally asked her, like, give me a couple numbers.
Yeah, the women's we had kind of the lowest was 215 and then up to with Lisa Bucheras and then Nikki Bartlick at 246. What these are telling me is that I've got a lot of work to do to get anywhere near female pro bike split in there. It would be interesting to be able to know a little bit more.
A note on this: it's very important to look. Well, we look at power outputs of pro athletes. When we're looking at those power numbers, we need to take into consideration if they were riding in the pack or if they were riding solo. I'm not saying they are drafting, but there is a draft benefit with the 12 meter.
12
huge,
especially at the speeds these guys are going. It would be
on the Queen K, the way those pro men rode.
Yeah,
it would be super interesting to compare like an athlete who soloed the ride versus an athlete who was in the pack, and I would guarantee you that the athlete that rode solo, power to weight, he would have pushed a lot more power than the guy sitting in the pack taking advantage of the group dynamics. So yeah.
And you also know Laidlow and Ditliff have to throw down more power just to move their bodies because they're bigger dudes.
Larger. It's like you.
Yeah. I mean, I have to. And now, so seeing those numbers, I am somebody who's like, oh man, I got a lot of work to do. And this is why I don't get up the hills the way I want to, because I did see on the Laidlow documentary on Kona, he had a Zwift interval up on the screen that they flashed to at one point. 400 watts, 15 minutes.
Casual.
400 watts, not 30 seconds, not 1 minute.
Not 30 by 30.
Yeah.
15 minutes, 400 watts.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's just, it'd be fun to, because there are so many brands, like it's really all about power to weight and we don't know their weights in there. But now even these days, you're seeing such drastic difference in the aerodynamics athletes that really take advantage of that.
Power to aero. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you can do a little backwards calculating if you can estimate their weight, but still that aerodynamics plays such a big factor these days. Just be, interesting to know. And we don't even need a study to see if 20 meters is different than 12 meters when it comes to drafting. Like you said, just compare the people in the pack compared to not in the pack, and you'll see the difference for sure.
Yeah, totally. Like I know for a fact, Henry Skuman is about my size and about my weight. Yeah, and the power that he pushed, like 270 something, compared to like a Magnus or a Sam Long or Sam Laidlow, it's nothing. Like those guys are pushing, like you said, 350, 340 on 90 Ks, and Henry is pushing 270, and they're going almost the same speed. But it's just, you need to take into consideration your weight, how aero you are. Just don't go chasing numbers just because. It's not a gym. It's not a flexing competition. Like the way I transmit this to my athletes is, it's not usually the guy who pushes the most watts that win. You need to push smart watts. That means being aero, being consistent, being, using the course to your advantage. I do not care if you push 300 watts for an hour if that gets you nowhere.
And you can't run off of it.
Exactly. I rather see you push 250, 240 and be super aero, and then
know how to fuel.
Know how to fuel, and then run great off the bike, because it's not a cycling race. And on that note, I don't know if you guys saw, or if you mentioned this a couple of weeks before. Did you guys saw the video of Pogacar going for the KOM? And there was an amateur filming, and these guys went by her like they were like a fighter jet.
Their watts is a whole different level.
Well,
I mean,
and they shared them. That's what I'm saying. They shared the watts. So why can't triathletes share their watts?
No, absolutely. It's always fun to just speculate a little bit, but we definitely see who spent the time dialing in those aerodynamics. It's been fun that there's been so many more conversations about it, and now we're seeing a lot of the side-by-sides of the different triathletes, what they're doing, and what positions they have. That's something too, Nev's position. Like, she has gotten seriously solid. I remember when she won 70.3 Worlds on a road bike with gels taped to her top tube. Like, the difference between the place in front of her was like a minute or something. If she had not had gels on her top tube, she would have been second, not like third. Like, it was insane. But anyways, we'll definitely be analyzing some of the aerodynamics of the pros when they kick off with racing again. Got a little bit of time until they do, but until then, we are going to be having some fun interviews. We're going to be chatting with someone about a little bit more of the extreme triathlon side of things. So it takes a little bit longer to cover 140.6 when you throw in some epic climbs and scenery and conditions at the end of the day. So we'll have more on that next week. And then we'll also be just chatting through the off season. I know a lot of the podcasts are taking some time off, but we're going to be here geeking out, talking about triathlon anyways. So we'll bring you along for the ride and let you know how our off season is going, bring in some tips and some good social media posts to keep you entertained as we go. But until next week, thanks for joining me as always, guys.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Thanks, Jenna. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.